Let me read to you a passage from the 10th chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 2 to 12. It's the Gospel for the 27th Sunday of Ordinary Time, Year B. St. Mark writes, "The Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, 'Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife?' They were testing him. He said to them in reply, 'What did Moses command you?' They replied, 'Moses permitted a husband to write a bill of divorce and dismiss her.' But Jesus said to them, 'Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, no man must separate.' In the house, the disciples again questioned Jesus about this. He said to them, 'Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery.'" That's from Mark chapter 10, verses 2 to 12. What does it suggest to us? Well, it suggests things, obviously, about marriage. Let me begin this way. There have been philosophical systems, the central idea of which is absurdity. That is to say, they propose that reality is discovered to be, to lack purpose and to lack ultimate worth. Ultimately, life is not worth living. At its centre, life is harsh, dark and ugly. Now, one ought not to glibly dismiss this, because this is precisely the experience of many. Without a sure conviction of a good God and perhaps of a divine revelation, it may not be easy to see or to show how meaningfulness carries the day. Cardinal Newman wrote in his great Apologia of 1864 that were it not for his inescapable sense of God present in his conscience, the evil of the world would have driven him into some form of unbelief. Revelation confirms that sin has struck the world as lightning might strike a tree, causing grievous damage. Nevertheless, the tree was not destroyed. It survived and, though crippled, continued to bear some foliage while awaiting a new blossoming that would come to it from on high. And so the world is, with all its pain, still a beautiful world. Nature films bear witness to this, to its astonishing beauty, the fields, the mountains, the falls, the birds and the animals. And most beautiful of all is man and woman who rise and fall in their grandeur. One of the most beautiful things about man is his love for the other, and in particular his love for his spouse. There are few things of greater beauty than the married love of the newly betrothed, who have entrusted themselves in love to one another till death. And when the church and when family and when friends look on them at the start of their life's course, they instinctively think that, for all the shadows, it is still a beautiful world. Literature extols the beauty of married and family love, and this is absolutely confirmed by divine revelation. In fact, God spoke of himself as a husband and a bridegroom. His chosen people are his spouse. He has made married love one of the most beautiful things in the world, a principal image of his relationship with us, his children. And in its turn, married love looks to Christ's love for his church as its truest model, and it will retain and grow in its characteristic beauty the more it mirrors and pulsates with this love. Man and woman have been created by God in equal dignity, for they are equally at the summit of the world. They each are human persons and stand together as Lord and Lady of the garden that is creation. At the same time, while being equal in dignity, they are made to complement one another reciprocally. God has willed them, one for the other, to form a communion of persons. In that communion, they transmit human life by forming in matrimony a oneness with each other. And together as one flesh, they are called to bring forth life and to be God's stewards of the earth. This marital relationship, which man easily takes for granted and easily abuses, has, in the case of the Church's members, been sanctified and made one of the 7 sacraments. Christian marriage is a sacrament. It is the sign and channel of Christ's love. And if they remain in Christ, his love becomes the soul and the support of their marriage. The Church teaches that there is a more noble vocation still, that which sets aside marriage for the love of God and offers one's heart and life to Christ directly. But the world depends on marriage as God intended it to be, and in particular on the sacrament of matrimony. A couple who live their married life in accord with the teaching of Christ and his Church are on a grand and beautiful, if difficult, road. It leads to life here and everlasting life hereafter. It is a road that excludes adultery, contraception, all forms of polygamy, and the ending of their own indissoluble bond. For all the darkness and sin that lurks in every corner of this beautiful house, ever ready to burst into a conflagration, the grace of God is present to sustain, to fortify, and to overcome. God means marriage to be the iconic communion of life, life's lasting and best joy, issuing in new life. It has the mission to be the image here on earth of the life of the Holy Trinity, and to bear witness to the love of Christ for his Church and for mankind. The whole of culture and society ought make it its business to hold marriage and family aloft as a beacon and as its most precious possession. The Church takes a very strong stand on marriage, and in particular on Christian marriage. It will resist any pressure in society to lessen its status or to allow it to be confused with other relationships, be they good or bad. It resists laws and institutions that do not support one or other of the essential features of marriage. These essential characteristics of marriage are revealed by God in the teaching of Christ and in the natural law, and the natural law is illuminated by the teaching of Christ. As we think of today's gospel, let us sing the grandeur of marriage, and let the song be heard everywhere.